Today, we're talking about long-term cash flow in construction. I'm going to show you how to do it like a CFO, creating 5x growth in 2 years. But here's the thing. When you look 24 months in advance, it's like the weather forecast. The further out, the less accurate. That shouldn't stop you though, because it helps see gaps in project pipeline that you need to fill. At the end of this video, I'll give you my tips for how to interpret these numbers and see the red flags before they're a problem. This is part 3 of the mini-series to give you the 3 ways to correct your cash flow problems immediately. Again, if you do all of these bi-weekly, I guarantee your company will not have cash flow problems. I know this works because construction finance is all I do for several multi-million-dollar companies. All right, if you don't have a cash flow forecasting spreadsheet, download a free copy of this one below. I built this for owners like you to quickly identify months of concern in the next 24 months. Again, anything in yellow are cells we edit. We'll start with the current month and year. This is so when we save as a PDF, at the end, we know what date it was projected from. All of the cells in white for months 1, 2, and 3 are calculated from the 13-week forecast and added together. So go watch part 2 of the series if you don't have that part filled out yet. The first section again is income sources. Since these are so far out, we plan based on our current schedule. When we will perform current work, when we will perform work that we have NOAs and NTPs on, and how much we think that value will be in terms of billing. It may be helpful for you to make another tab on this spreadsheet to track your bid board projects so you get a feel of how they are all going to just tie together. All projects have a bell curve schedule where they start slow, ramp up, and then taper back down. So use that bell curve idea when estimating your billing amount. All that means is don't put a flat billing rate for a project for 10 months because we know that that's wrong. I like to add lines to put potential projects we are looking at with business development so we can identify if they even fit in our labor gaps or if it's going to strain us financially or with labor. Remember, most contracts now are pay when paid, with the grace period being 5 to 10 business days. So whatever work you plan to do in 1 month, plan on getting paid 2 months later. Now we'll look at cash out, starting with overhead expenses. In the overhead calculator video, we filled out the overhead expenses monthly, weekly, and annually. Those all fill into the white cells, so if you want to edit those, go back and rewatch part 1 of the series. One problem to be aware of is you're lumping 4 to 5 weeks together. So although it may look like cash positive overall for a month, it could really be tight the first and second weeks, but fall back in line weeks 3 to 5. This is just so we get an idea if it's even plausible. To fix those small week by week cash flow issues, we use working capital and wait for them to come closer into that 13-week look ahead. Now, this is my favorite tab to look at with clients because it's the what if tab. Everybody wants to grow, but they want to know, do I do this or do I not do this? What if they took a project or hired a new office member, but they aren't sure how their cash position is going to look if they did that? We can see that right now. For example, if you want to hire a new PM to take on 3 new projects in 6 months, is it feasible to hire them in 4 months with our project workload and how much money we're billing to get them really acclimated the way we do business before we hire them to start those projects? Now, I do plan for worst case scenario, being a project manager. So if a project is slated to start in May, I project it will start in June or July because I've never been on a project that actually started on time. Next is the toughest part with estimating project costs for 24 months. You may have 50 projects or more and lumping them all together. So just do your best. This is just a tool to guess. It may help you to just do a monthly average of what you spend and add 5 to 10% every 5 months to simulate that 20% growth over a year. Next is the other cash out. This is probably the most important part of the 24-month look ahead tab because during the 13-week look ahead, you plan to use funds from your working capital to fill in gaps, but you won't be paying them back until the 4 to 24-month later period. So depending on where that falls, it's going to be on this tab. It also helps you identify if, when, and how much you can pull for your owner's draws. Every business owner gets so wrapped up in the day-to-day and they try to defer earnings until they feel really comfortable with the financials, but that never comes. This is a place that reminds you to take something out for yourself and plan 4 months in advance to do it. It's not greedy. Just do it for you. It's also a place my clients like to track paying bonuses out. Finally is the last cash in section for working capital and finding a way to make the dream work. You need to be planning in this tab for where you want to be in 4 months or further by accruing those working capital options before they get to your 13-week look ahead. Typically, getting approved for funding at these high values takes 2 to 3 months. So that's why it's important to identify it on this tab and getting it approved before it's too late in the 13-week tab. For specific examples of any of these cash in or cash out, look back at the part 2 video, but that's the 3 ways to fix your cash flow indefinitely, as long as you don't bite off more than you can chew. You shouldn't think of business as how can I survive this week? You should have the mindset of how will I be where I want to be in 12 months from now and work backwards. Do I have my ideal projects in place? Do I have my working capital to make it all happen? Do I have the right employees? Earlier I mentioned I'd go over my tips for how to interpret these numbers and see those red flags. If you want to see how I use this spreadsheet to do that for my CFO clients, check out this next video.